You know what a dead body smells like? I Googled it. I don't know by myself. Don't come for me. They say a dead body smells like rotting meat. That's to be expected, right? It's rotting meat that's been left on the counter for days. But there's something sickly sweet about the smell. It's not just rotten meat. There's almost a fruity undertone to it. Like the type of sweetness that might make you feel sick. These days, there are a lot of highly effective chemicals that can neutralize these odors, thankfully. But still, there's a constant chemically sharp reminder of what that scent is masking. It's masking the scent of death. It's not easy working in a morgue, especially for college students, but this was a university hospital and these kids in the Philippines needed to get their credits. So instead of joining in on all the fun fraternity parties, these students were basically interns at the morgue.
It's an actual morgue.
Yeah, it's a
So it's like
hospital
a-
morgue.
Oh.
So when it was slow, maybe they would even sit at the desk, try to get some studying done. Tonight was not that night though. There was a rush of police officers running into the morgue. They had two bodies, both hidden underneath the white sheets. One young female, one young male. The students gathered with the head pathologist on duty and they watched as they peeled back these white sheets slowly, carefully. The police had already warned them though. It's going to be gruesome. The bodies are not in good condition. This is going to be traumatizing for you guys to see. Like, just be warned. The female body has severe evidence of trauma, most likely essayed and tortured by a group of killers. Both victims were shot. The students stood frozen in, what I can only imagine is horror. The two bodies that were on the cold steel table, they were their friends. They were their classmates. They were university students. And these murders were about to be the biggest mysteries / murder investigations that they had seen in this town in a very, very long time. It would lead to the vanishing of a police officer, 7 high-profile killers being thrown in jail with a combined sentence of 1,970 years in prison. Even the president of the Philippines had to step in and get involved. Because who would do something like this to 2 innocent university students? As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. Today we're talking about a case that happened in the Philippines, and we had our wonderful Filipino researcher help with this case. I feel like we have a little network of mini detectives in all these different countries now, and it's been intense, but I think you guys have been liking the coverage of international cases, so we've all been working hard to keep them coming. But as always, if you guys know anything about this case that wasn't said in this video, if you have more insight or anything at all that got lost in translation, please leave it in the comments below. And with that being said, let's get into it. Deputy Chief George walks into the conference room at the police station. Officer Aurelio was already there. He's Deputy George's right-hand man. They practically ran every single case together. He was present in the conference room, and the two are sitting there waiting for the 3 other random officers that had also been summoned. They rushed in with their little hot coffees in their hand. So we have Officer Zoilo, Officer Vigencio, and Officer Lewis. So those 3 come in. Now it's 5 officers in this room. Deputy Chief George is in charge. I know it's a lot of names, but they're super important to the investigation. Deputy George and his 4 officers, they weren't particularly a group that always worked together. In fact, they weren't even that close, but this was a very special case. 7 a.m., they had a lot of ground to cover. Deputy George starts the conversation. Look, I didn't call you guys here by accident. Each officer in this room was handpicked by the mayor to form a task force. From now on, the mayor is our boss. Not Major Canyo, who's our boss. The mayor is our boss. Because, boys, today we're going to catch the biggest drug runner in the region, Tisoy. The 5 of us are going to form a cohesive unit of operation. The mayor expects us to have that drug runner in handcuffs on his dirty little wrist ASAP. Do you think we can handle it? So the 4 officers, they're getting excited. They're sitting up straighter. They're putting their coffees down. If the mayor personally chose us for the job, that means he thinks we are the best. We're the best team to get this job done. This was the peak of their careers. In unison, they shouted, "Yes, sir." And Tisoy was a big problem to a lot of people in the area. But for Eileen and Alan, 2 college students, there was nothing connecting them to this drug runner. A little bit about Eileen Sarmenta and Alan Gomez. They both attended Los Baños at university, which is about an hour from Manila. They both studied agriculture, but Eileen was on like the feeding the cows side of it, while Alan was on the eating the cows side of it. Basically, Eileen studied agriculture with a focus on food and nutrition for large animals. She's thinking about what kind of macronutrients do I need to feed these cows so that they can be peak health. And Alan studied agriculture with a focus on beef production. So he's thinking, what can I do to feed this cow into me? So she's feeding them, he's killing them, and together they were friends. Yeah. Since they technically shared the same major, some of their classes overlapped, and sometimes they would share their little notes back and forth. Alan was a whole 2 years younger than Eileen, but they had taken a ton of the same classes and they have really gotten to know each other. They were hitting it off. They weren't a couple or anything though. Like, God no. Okay, Eileen liked Alan and everything, but he was just a friend. Alan felt the same way. They were actually both in committed relationships with other people. Their friendship was strictly platonic. And of course, it's nice to have a study buddy when they know all the struggles of your particular major. So Eileen and Alan's morning, it starts with a lecture, some note-taking, another lecture, a short break for lunch. The campus is pretty spread out and it's summertime, so they try to savor these little walks in between classes. Eileen would lift her hair off her neck because it's really humid. And she thought about her plans for that evening. She's like, okay, once I get out of classes, I gotta do my homework. And then she's like, wait, Alan, we're still meeting for coffee after class, right? Near campus? He's like, yeah, we'll meet for coffee and I'll drive you home afterwards. So the two agree to it. They go to the local coffee shop after classes. They study, exchange notes, but also they caught each other up on all the things that were going on campus. They talked about their professors, fraternity parties, who hooked up with who hooked up with who at sorority parties. It's genuinely just a stereotypical college campus conversation. Now, their university has 12,000 students, so most of the time they had no idea who each other was talking about, but sometimes it would overlap. They finish their coffee. It's getting late. Alan's like, okay, well, let's go back to the car. The parking lot is relatively empty. So this coffee shop is basically on campus, and at this point, everyone had made it back to their dorms. Nobody was really there. So she opens the passenger side door, and she's about halfway in. And side note, Alan has a really funky car in the best way possible. It's this white Enfrage van. It's like a super boxy, looks like a cute camper van almost. It's a truck with 2 seats in the front, and the back is more of like a U-Haul situation. So it's covered, but think of it like a pickup truck, just a metal sheet floor. There weren't any more seats. It wasn't carpeted. It was just a metal floor. It's cool. It's reliable. It's perfect for a college student like Alan. But I guess in other situations, like if you were driving around your house at night, it might slightly resemble a kidnapper's van, like a stereotypical kidnapper van. Anyway, Eileen opens the passenger door. Alan is reaching for the driver door. They're both halfway in when all of a sudden an ambulance van, or what looked to be an ambulance van, screeches to a stop just a few feet away from their car. This is a van like the regular police drive. But the people driving this van were not pursuants of justice. They were straight up criminals. There were 7 men in that car. 2 of them rush out and start pulling Alan away from the van. Another 2 run towards the side where Eileen is. And by the time that she's already halfway inside the van, the men grab her by the shoulders, pull her out, drag her to the back of the car, open the trunk, and shove her in. Within seconds, both Alan and Eileen were shoved in the back of Alan's car. 2 men get in the front. They start driving. The rest of the men follow in their little police van. Eileen and Alan were terrified. These people had come out of nowhere disguised as a police ambulance, and now they were being held hostage in Alan's own car. These kids have no enemies. These kids have never dabbled in crime. They're your stereotypical run-of-the-mill college students, and I say that with so much respect because, why wouldn't you want to be that? There was nobody in the parking lot that had seen much of anything. There were no CCTV cameras in this side of the parking lot that had witnessed the kidnapping. The only evidence that something very, very bad had happened was while they were in the middle of a struggle, the wallet in Alan's pocket had fallen out onto the parking lot floor. That was the only thing left behind that hinted at anything happening to them. The criminals did not notice it. The cars drove away, and As time passed, it seemed like the two college kids were being delivered to someone. That was kind of because, if these guys wanted to kill them or hurt them or even take something from them, they would have done it right now. They would have done it already. But instead, they drove for about half an hour before pulling up to this massive gated estate. One of the men gets out of the van, opens the door, drags out Eileen. She adjusts her eyes, and in front of her is this sprawling mansion. And an older man walks out the front door. The way he walks, the way he held his shoulders back, his chest up, chin high, he was a man that wielded power. What kind of power? I don't know. Even his shirt screamed power. We'll later find out that this was his signature go-to. He always wore a crisp white polo, ironed to perfection, not a wrinkle in sight, pure white, not even a tint of yellowing or doling of the fabric. This was a man that was not to be messed with. These 7 men, they brought her to him. Why? The man speaks. Well, she's gorgeous. And who is that kid? One of the men answers, sorry, boss, he was with her and we had to bring him along to avoid any complications. The man nods, grabs Eileen by the arm, and drags her into the mansion and let the door slam behind them. The kidnappers were just left with Alan now, so they drag him to the guest house at the back of the mansion where some of the other employees of this powerful white polo-wearing man are lounging on the couch watching TV. So, for fun, the kidnappers threw Alan on the ground and they start beating him up for fun. They're thinking, Alan's a witness of our crime. We have no plans to leave him alive, so why waste a chance to be violent? We love violence. He was going to die anyway. That's what these people are thinking. They punch him, kick him, spit on him. Alan curled up into a ball in the fetal position with his hands over his head. He's trying to protect himself, but these 4 grown men are just viciously attacking him. So they would take turns. Some of the men said that they didn't really beat Alan. It was primarily 4 men. So when they were done, one of the kidnappers grabs a rifle from the van, walks over to Alan, doesn't shoot him, but starts beating him with the blunt end of the rifle. They leave Alan bloody, bruised, and barely breathing on the gravel driveway. Should we kill him now? Is he dead? I don't even think he's breathing. The man with the rifle said, his death will come later. They continued to watch TV while their boss was busy with Eileen. They thought it was interesting. He has this fascination with a young college student that he happened to see by chance. He went as far as to order her kidnapping. He must have really been taken by her. It's speculated either he saw her out because maybe her neighbor is his mistress and she was outside, or he had driven by the campus. So either way, it was just a passing glance. He was known to be a ruthless, evil criminal boss, but this was a bit wild even for them. The man dragged Eileen into his room, and they did not come out until 1 a.m. Her face was tear-stained, her wrists were tied tightly together, her white shorts were missing, and she was whimpering uncontrollably. The man was wearing nothing but his signature white polo shirt. I'm through with her. Do what you want with her. She's all yours. What about the other kid? One kidnapper responded, we're going to kill him. So there's not going to be any loose ends. Don't worry, boss. Eileen is standing right in front of them when they said that. They did not care. They drag her and Alan back to the trunk, and they get separated in the 2 different vans now. So the kidnappers take both university students, and this time they split them up in the 2 different vehicles. So in this little fake police van, some of the kidnappers go and they take Eileen. Now, what's important is there's a lot of windows on this fake police van because it looks like a police van, right? So she can see out the van. This is important. In the other car, in Alan's truck, which is pretty windowless, it's just Alan in the back of the truck and 2 kidnappers in the front. And Alan's truck is driving in front of the police van. So Eileen can see this truck in front of her and she's freaking out. She's thinking of what to do. She's wondering if they're going to drop them off and dump them somewhere and hope that they don't remember their faces. But instead, she sees Alan's van swerving for about a mile. Now, this is a remote area, so nobody saw it. No other passerbys, no other drivers were on the road. But we can assume that Alan had woken up and was trying to fight the kidnappers.
Oh my God. For a mile?
For about a mile. And then Eileen could hear 2 loud bangs and the car no longer swerved. A mile later, they pulled over to the side of the remote road. Eileen was alive and conscious. The kidnappers opened the back of Alan's van and drag out 19-year-old Alan's body. They literally let his body hit his own van's bumper and fall to the side of the road. They drag him out like a sack of potatoes. They drag him into the tall grass a few feet off the highway. There's a trail of blood where they had dragged him and he had been shot twice. Eileen saw everything. She heard the gunshots. She saw them drag her friend's lifeless body. When the van starts to move again, she's absolutely petrified. I mean, now she's really alone. The next time the van stops, Eileen was moved to Alan's truck, so the flat metal truck bed, and she couldn't see anything or any even lights, like no civilization for miles at least. Her eyes were adjusted to the dark, and she's praying that someone would find her, but she just sees like these sugarcane fields. They stop, and she's laying on the back of the truck bed, and 7 strange men are just towering over her. And one of them said, and I quote, "Let's go turbo on this girl the way Boss just did." They took turns holding her down and assaulting her. The entire time Eileen was sobbing, she begged them to stop. They did not listen. She at least begged them to be gentle. They did not listen. There was only one kidnapper who did not participate in the assaults, and the kidnappers tried to egg him on, saying, "Don't you want to go now? She's all yours now." And it's okay, I don't feel like it. The rest of the men, they shrugged. They reached into Alan's van when they were done with her, so all of them took turns, pulled out one of the rifles, and Eileen reportedly begged for her life. Reportedly, she said, "Please, you've taken everything from me, my shame, my honor, my dignity. Just spare my breath. It's the only thing I have left." They shoved a dirty handkerchief into her mouth to keep her from talking, and she had this really pretty, distinct beauty mark on her left cheek. They held up the rifle and pointed it at that beauty mark and pulled the trigger. They just left her in the van. They left Alan's van like that. They left her in the back of the van. They didn't even bother cleaning anything up. Her shirt was found exposing her whole body. There were no pants. Like, it was just bad. These kidnappers, they pull up their own pants, get into the police van, and drive off. Even on the way back home, they're all laughing and talking about the assault, giving a play-by-play, laughing at her for begging for her life. They're talking about it as if they just watched a sports game. Each kidnapper was dropped off one by one and was told to meet at the same time again tomorrow. There was more work to be done. Meanwhile, the police are surveying for the drug runner Tessoy when they find the bodies. The only police car to fit all of them was a patrol car that looked like a police ambulance, a real one. And the department was running out of money, so it's not like the most incognito van. Now, Officers Zoilo, Vincenzo, and Luis, they would sit in the back with a folded up stretcher and first aid kit, while Deputy George and Officer Aurelio sat in the front. This is day 1 of their operation. Operation Don't Disappoint the Mayor and Crack Down on the Drug Runner. So catching a notorious drug runner, it sounds exciting, it sounds fun, but their task was to just drive around hoping that they would see him walking down a sidewalk somewhere so that they could start following and stalking the drug runner. Most of the morning, they were just faces glued to the sides of their windows driving around. The testosterone-filled excitement from that morning, it's dying. It's not as cool. It's not as Avengers Marvel movie action as they thought. They're just driving around and filling up the gas tank. So now, the 4 other officers wondered if Deputy George was just getting them wrapped up in a mission that was impossible. The next morning, they wake up at the butt crack of dawn. Evil never sleeps, Deputy George says. And then they would all get back in the car, and they're driving around, looking for this drug runner. They start driving through an area called Imok. It's about a 20-minute drive from the university campus. So they're on this semi-secluded road when one of the officers perks up his seat and is like, "Hey, what is that?" The van slows down and the other officers look out and they see a man laying in the tall grass next to the side of the road. They roll their eyes. Okay, just their luck. They're supposed to be out here catching they're supposed to be doing some FBI. Okay, catching a drug runner, but instead they're driving around acting like parking meter cops, and now they're gonna have to wake up this drunk kid, probably a university kid that passed out after a frat party in the freaking grass, give him a lecture, send his booty home. Ugh, this is not that exciting. This is like low-level officer stuff. So the ambulance pulls over to the side of the road and reverse backs towards the man. Officer Aurelio was driving, and he was like, "I'm just gonna stay in the car because this is below my pay grade." Officer George, Vincenzo, and Luis get out, and they cautiously approach the man. As they get closer, they realize the drug runner might have to wait, because laying beneath them was a young man with 2 bullet wounds, one to his head, one in the back. He was dead. They stood in silence, and from the van, Officer Aurelio's walkie-talkie beeped. Remember Officer Zoilo? He's the other officer in the little squad. He was at the station doing paperwork, and he heard that there had been a female body found by some civilians nearby where Deputy George had just reported this male dead body. He beeped them and was like, you guys need to go get to that other body right now because civilians found a body. So now Deputy George has 2 bodies on his hands and a drug runner still on the loose. The officers tape off the scene where the male body was found. He leaves one of the officers to guard the crime scene, and the rest head over to the other crime scene where they find Eileen's body. She was found inside Alan's van in the back of the cold metal floor. Her shirt was pulled up. Her undergarments were around her ankles. I mean, there were signs of bodily fluids on and around her body, and also flowing out is kind of how they describe it. She had a handkerchief stuffed in her mouth, and just like the man's body, she had a bullet wound to the head. But for the male body, they just found Alan's body. He had been shot at close range, but the officers could tell that the gun had been at least a foot or 2 away. So it's very close, but it's not, the damage is not going to be as severe. The damage done to this woman's face led the police to believe that the gun was touching her skin when it was shot. An entire portion of her face was missing. George felt his stomach drop. The girl was obviously in her young 20s. Some evil person had just come into his jurisdiction and committed this heartless, merciless crime. This poor girl had suffered so much and had her life ripped away from her when it was only just beginning. He put a blanket over the woman's body to try to give her some dignity in death. The closest hospital was the University Hospital. I'm not sure why they took the bodies there instead of to a regular hospital, since it was obvious that there was nothing the doctors could do to help them. So why take them to the closest hospital that's a university hospital where there's a chance that these victims could be university students? Because they're found close to the university as well. Some reason, I guess it just slipped their minds. George and his team transported both bodies to the morgue at the university hospital. And there, the students at Los Baños University recognized their friends and classmates, Eileen and Alan. Eileen was a senior who was about to graduate. She was really a special person to a lot of people on campus. And I know that we have victims that almost sound too perfect, like they lit up the room when they walked in. You get it. But Eileen was really, really fascinating. People said she wasn't even trying to be this amazing person, but she just naturally was. On weekends, she would skip parties to volunteer. She was very warm. Like, for example, if you were a little lonely or no one wanted to go to the movie with you and you're like, oh my God, I really want to see this movie this weekend. Eileen wouldn't say anything, but the next day she would show up at school with 2 tickets to the movies, one for you and one for her. And she just had this like presence around her. People said if you hung out with Eileen, you felt really safe. You know those people that you just feel very safe around? She was that fuzzy blanket friend that makes you feel very cozy. She was also super studious, and her teacher said, okay, in class, you know how sometimes kids ask really random questions and you're like, oh, this kid is trying to stall time. This kid is trying to be funny. This kid is distracting. Eileen would ask the most random questions, but she was genuinely such a curious person. She wasn't doing it to be a smart ass. Her teachers knew this too. She wanted to know everything about everything. And she just had this big brain that stored all this information all the time. And as for Alan Gomez, he was kind of the opposite. Like if you were walking through the university, they said you would always hear this kid laughing. Like his laugh was that contagious laugh where he would go silent and he would just be like breathing spurts, and then he would snort randomly. And then even if you don't even know what he's laughing about, you're like walking past him in the hallways, you kind of want to giggle because you're like, what is so funny? That was Alan. He was just very goofy. He was very free-spirited. He loved to make people laugh. He loved to be around people. He's very sociable. And overall, these 2 students were good people, yes, but they were also so normal. And I say that in the best way. Like, they didn't have shady hobbies. They didn't know any sketchy people. They had no big, there was no weird thing going on around them. They were just so normal. Their family life was normal. Their grades were great. They played Uno and Monopoly on the weekends in their free time. Like, how did these 2 run-of-the-mill college students turn up dead on the side of the road? Especially the way that Eileen was found. She had multiple cuts and bruises on her body as well. Her hymen, which is inside of you, had multiple shallow cuts.
No.
Yeah. So that wasn't expanded upon, and I'm not a medical professional, but I can kind of only imagine what might have happened in that situation. Now, when Deputy Chief George walked on scene, there was still white liquid that was flowing out. It would test positive for male fluids, and it wasn't just one single person's. They didn't know exactly how many, but it was clear evidence by the sheer amount that it was at least multiple men that had violated, I don't want to say men, multiple monsters that had violated Eileen and then left her out for dead on the side of the road like trash. It is said that the amount of liquid was enough to fill a sardine can. Was this random? Was someone stalking her? Did someone target her? These were the questions that the police had because there was just no way that Eileen and Alan were involved in anything shady. It just didn't make sense. And not that being involved in gray area activities or illegal activities warrants murder or death like this, but it was really puzzling. Everyone at the university, all the kids nearby couldn't help but wonder, am I next? So when everyone heard the news that Eileen was gone, they all wondered originally, maybe she was in a tragic car accident. Maybe she got hit by a car. Maybe stray gunfire from a gang fight. No one thought it would be anything like this. Now, authorities believed that Eileen was the main target, and perhaps Alan was killed because he just happened to be there with Eileen. There was no evidence that Alan had been abused. He did have multiple bruises made by blunt objects. He had scrapes all over his face, arms, back, a lot of bruising, and 2 gunshot wounds. But the difference in what the killers did to Eileen versus Alan made them believe that they were after Eileen. Most of the damage was done to her, and the gunshot wound directly, very close range, touching her face, it looked personal. So Major Canio, he is the top of the police station. So on top of Deputy George. Major Canio believed that Alan might have been kidnapped and killed just because he's a witness, right? But Deputy George told his boss, I have a different theory, boss. Deputy Chief George believed that Alan was the killer. He said, think about it. This is Deputy George's theory, okay? Alan did it. Eileen was found in his car. They knew each other. Eileen was easily one of the prettiest girls on campus, and any guy would want to be with her. Why wouldn't Alan want to be with her? Why wasn't Alan her boyfriend? Because she already had one. Eileen rejects Alan's advances using some excuse like, we're just not compatible, or I only think of you as a friend, or I've got a boyfriend, sorry. Eileen did it nicely, of course. She's a nice girl, and she's always mindful of other people's feelings. And Alan pretended that everything was okay. But boss, I recently got a report that Alan was seen in a physical altercation with another college student named Kit. Oh yeah. Kit was the new boyfriend of Alan's ex-girlfriend, and Kit dumped the ex-girlfriend. Very complicated. I know, stay with me here because Kit is kind of important. Alan went to fight Kit. He's like, why'd you break up with my ex-girlfriend in such a heartless way? You hurt her heart. Kind of weird.
That's what?
Yeah. But Alan ends up losing the fight, getting upset, getting embarrassed, humiliated. And what do a lot of humiliated men do? They start blaming it on women. This is what Deputy Chief George is thinking, not me. And who is the woman that he is most angry at? The one that rejected him, of course. Eileen. So
a lot of mental car wheels going on.
Yeah. So according to Deputy George's original theory, Alan is a borderline incel. Do we have proof? No, not really. But he continues. His ego is bruised. He blames it on women. So he invites Eileen to a platonic coffee date like old times to show her, you know what? Even if you rejected me, we can still be friends and there's no hard feelings. She accepts. The meeting goes well. She lets him drive her home, and that's when he assaults her and kills her to take revenge on women and build up his ego again. He leaves her in the car and takes a walk. But during this walk, all the guilt starts to hit him, but more than the guilt, he knows he's going to be caught. There's too much evidence. So using the same gun that he used on Eileen, he uses it on himself.
Twice.
Things like this do happen. People have killed people for rejecting them. But basic evidence disproves this very, very rudimentary theory, honestly. First of all, Alan is not an incel. Just trust me on that one. 2, if Alan shot himself, how did he get a bullet wound made by a gun that was at least a couple feet away from him? Second of all, how did he have a bullet wound on his back? And the gun wasn't found at the crime scene. That doesn't make sense. There's no blood trail and evidence that Alan could have disposed of this gun after inflicting these shots to his body. Third, there was enough bodily fluid to point to many R-worders or killers. So Alan and who else? Who are these people? Where are they now? Major Canio, Deputy Chief George's boss, politely pulled him to the side. Don't be an idiot, okay? Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Don't be an idiot. Alan is not the killer. I don't know if you're lacking sleep because you're chasing the drug runner, but go drink a coffee and regroup. So Deputy Chief George chugs coffee and he's like, okay, maybe he's right. Yeah, maybe. I mean, that was crazy, right? The most important piece of evidence that they have right now, the thing that could bring this whole case down, was found by a citizen, not even the police. So the police, not even just Deputy Chief George, but the whole police unit, they're dropping the ball on this case. I don't know if they didn't know how to work a murder investigation or what's going on. So the police, they're doing their rounds, asking all the residents of the area, have you guys seen anything? Have you heard anything that might be connected to the murders? Anything suspicious? And one resident was like, I don't know if this matters, but I got something. I found this along that road that the boy was found. A single bullet casing. Okay, this just adds to the incompetence of the police right now. They're supposed to be tracking down the biggest drug runner in the area, and this is how you run things? I mean, no wonder the drug runner hasn't been caught. So this little bullet casing, if you've ever shot a gun, okay, if you've never shot a gun, I guess, and you don't know how guns or a bullet casing is, it's basically the shell of a bullet. Every bullet has a casing. It's this metal cylinder that's the casing, and then the bullet comes out of it and into a rounded point. There's gunpowder in the middle. When a gun is fired, that gunpowder explodes the tip of the bullet into whatever direction, and the casing, the little cylindrical bit, it just falls to the floor. It doesn't really fall. Sometimes it shoots up and falls maybe a feet away, 2 feet away. Sometimes the distance is right there. It flies out and it's left near where the gun is shot. Now, not all bullets fit all guns. Think of a gun like a jar and a bullet like a lid. If you have a similar jar, sometimes you can put the same lid on, but it's not one size fits all. The resident found the casing on the side of the road near where Alan was found, which is not unreasonable. That is where it could have flown after the bullet was fired. That doesn't necessarily mean the casing was attached to the same bullet that killed Alan. It could have been a different shooting, but there's a strong possibility. This casing was not the strongest piece of evidence, but as of right now, it kind of was. It was like the most important thing because they're waiting on the DNA from the semen found on Eileen. That was another priority. They would get tested first, so the semen would get tested, and while they wait for results, they would search for fingerprints in the van, they would check underneath the student's fingernails for any DNA, and then they would go around to checking the bullet casing. Whoever killed Eileen and Alan, they were still out there. There is a huge university just 20 minutes away from where the bodies are found. About 12,000 college students are living in danger each day that the police do not find the killers. And so far, it seems to be a lot of killers. They could strike again. So they put every piece of evidence from this case as top of the force's priority list. But it's like the deeper they get into investigating this case, weird things start happening. Remember Officer Aurelio, Deputy Chief George's right-hand man? The one that was in the car the very afternoon that the bodies had been discovered, he noticed something so strange. He didn't say anything about it because I think in the Philippines, I think in a lot of Asian cultures, it's very hard to speak out against superiors. But while his fellow detectives were investigating the evidence and were bagging up more evidence, he was sent to the municipal hall to do something, like casework. And he saw the white van. Alan's white van, the one where Eileen was killed, the one that was probably filled with evidence and DNA and fingerprints. Someone was diligently scrubbing every inch of that truck. The man cleaning the van was wearing a prison uniform, so he was a prisoner of the municipal hall, so he was obviously acting under orders because these prisoners would be ordered to clean stuff all the time. Whoever it was, though, they were way high up. Aurelio just thought that was weird.
Wait, so someone high up in the police station ordered.
Could be police station, could be the municipal hall, could be the government. Someone high up.
Like a high up official.
Yeah, because Aurelio is just a cop. Like Deputy George, just a cop.
So this is like a high up,
yeah,
like complicated hidden order.
That's weird.
Like scrubbing evidence right now.
Oh yeah, like the same day the bodies are found. But only someone with a lot of authority could do that, and Aurelio was way below them in rank to even question it, because you don't know which of your direct superiors could be connected to these higher ups, and then you don't want to... So he didn't say anything. It wasn't his place to question. So he just shook his head and walked inside. But either way, it was clear Alan did not do this to Eileen and to himself. The police pivot and they have a new theory forming. Remember Kit, the one that Alan had gotten into a fight with, the other college student, over the ex-girlfriend? Maybe he killed Alan. They already got into a physical altercation. Who's not to say that he came back to finish Alan? So the police went and they talked to Kit, the ex-girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, the guy that Alan fought. They talked to Kit and Kit is like, I mean, yeah, we did punch each other in the face, but that was like 3 months ago. We're all good now. You punched the guy and you expect me to believe you guys are all buddy-buddy now? Yeah, that's the whole point. We fought it out. We said what needed to be said. No hard feelings. Then why is there blood on your pants? Kit looked down. Oh. I punched a wall earlier. I guess I got some blood on my pants. Like, honestly, what is going on? The raging red flag. Why is this kid out here punching walls to the point that he's bleeding? And if truly he was, why would he be admitting something like that to the cops? That makes him look like the shadiest college student on campus. The police investigate his little toxic, dramatic punching the wall till my knuckles bleed story. And he's actually telling the truth. His knuckles were busted. They found the hole in the wall and people reported seeing him punching it until he bled. That and friends of both Kit and Alan had not noticed any animosity between the two. They were like, oh yeah, they fought and they were chill now. So this theory turned out to be another dead end. And then another curious thing happens. Remember how police officer Aurelio saw the prisoner being ordered to wash the van, aka the crime scene, aka Alan's van, the van with all the evidence? Well, he vanishes in the middle of the investigation, just falls off the face of the earth. Nobody hears from him.
The prisoner?
No. Aurelio, the officer.
Oh.
Nobody hears from him. Nobody knows where he is. Nobody, not even his family. It's alarming. It's coincidence. We don't know. We're about to find out. There's so many layers to this. I'm sorry. At this point, Officer Aurelio is missing, but his squad, his police squad, can't even look for him because they've got a big murder to solve. So they end up going to the mayor's house while this is all going down. And the mayor becomes important. The crime scene is like a couple blocks away from his place, which is a shit show. So everyone's like, we need to up the security. What's going on? Is the drug runner coming after the mayor? Is this a drug runner sending a signal to the mayor? Because this happened almost immediately after he had ordered the investigation into the drug runner. This is a sign for the mayor to back off, right? So they go to the mayor and they're like, you need to do something. I think you need extra security detail. And Mayor Sanchez, I'm telling you, it's dangerous. Now, Mayor Sanchez is kind of an interesting man, okay? He's the type of man that's not really scared. He's like, God will protect me, don't worry. And the police are like, no, you don't understand, okay? Drug runners may or may not believe in God, so if they're coming after you, you need to get someone at your door. And he's like, okay, I'll pray about it. And they're like, this is not. And just side note about this guy in general, okay? But apparently he's actually doing a pretty good job at being a mayor. He's a devout man of God, but he's very compassionate, kind-hearted, supported a lot of charities. But he is controversial because he's very obsessed with Botox and filler and spends at least 20 minutes every morning doing his hair in front of the bathroom mirror. So he's just kind of out there. And he's like, oh, I don't need guards. God will protect me. So at this point, the police are too busy to even entertain this guy. They're like, okay, whatever. We need to get the forensic evidence back. The analysis of the evidence had finished sometime in July. For reference, Eileen and Alan's bodies were found June 29th. So it's relatively quick, but not that quick. The police knew that more than one man had R-worded Eileen prior to her death, but after the DNA analysis, they had an exact number. 7. 7 men had brutally taken advantage of and R-worded this 21-year-old student. 7 separate people who probably, all of them had mothers, maybe wives, maybe daughters, had not only been complicit in watching Eileen get brutally violated, but had participated in traumatizing her and later in her murder. They tried to run the DNA, and there was no match in the system. Whoever did this to Eileen and Alan had never been caught for any other crime in their life. For me, those odds sound strange. You're telling me 7 separate people who are so evil they would torture R-word and murder a young woman, and on top of that, they killed her friend simply because he was there. This is not a first crime type of situation. To do something so horrible, you must have done other crimes beforehand. But the chances that all 7 of them have never been caught for anything? How in the world did they fly under the radar for so long? But more on that later. Then there was one last piece of evidence, the bullet casing. The bullet was a 5.56 millimeter caliber bullet. There are over 100 different types of guns that can take that bullet, but, and a big but, this bullet casing had a couple scratches in it. They're called striations. So when a bullet gets fired, the bullet doesn't just shoot straight out of the gun. It actually spins, and the bullet itself rotates with the casing inside of the gun for like the tiniest fraction of a second. And when it rotates, the outside of the bullet scrapes against the inside of the bullet chamber as it spins, and it bursts out, leaving these microscopic marks on the bullet. They're like teeny tiny little scratches. Each gun has
different, right?
Yes, has a unique pattern of scratches. It's not to say like every single gun, but like each model of gun. And it's done on purpose. It's like the firearm version of a fingerprint. Now, this bullet had one gun's fingerprint all over it, and all the police had to do was figure out which gun shot it. But till then, they had to try and figure out a way to please the increasingly desperate, terrified, and heartbroken public. Can you blame them? They felt like the police were not doing enough. The public was scared. They put up signs and banners around the university. They were dissatisfied with the current progress. They marched, protested, they chanted, "We, the scholars of the nation, demand justice." There's added layers of context and culture to this, but in the Philippines, it's very difficult to get into college. And, you know, it's kind of different from the US where, can I say it? Like, we have a lot of fun majors in the US, you know, but when you get to college in the Philippines, like, people are really focused, like, they're dedicating their whole lives. It's very hard. And the fact that these university students, it seemed like they were targeted and the police are not even catching the killers. It's like this, we are the future of the country. We are literally giving up our youth to be the future of this country, and you don't care when we're killed? It's very frustrating for people. So they actually all gathered together and they're like, we need to do something, okay? Forget these police. So they all gather together and they make these organized groups. And I'm telling you, college kids, that's where it starts. Like, students really, they make a lot of moves. So they get everyone together and they're like, we need to ask all the neighbors, see if anybody saw anything suspicious at all. So we heard they were in some sort of like police van. So we need to see if anyone saw any sort of police van and who was driving it. They go around taking notes, and all these notes match up to one person. They get a composite sketch artist and they sketch out the driver of a police van. Now, it looked more like a missing person than it did a killer, though. It looked like Officer Aurelio, the right-hand man to Deputy George, the driver of the police van, the one that saw Alan's van being cleaned, the one that vanished. It looked exactly like him. To be fair, he was driving a police van that day, so whether it's like they thought it was that police van or something, or maybe it's a setup, we don't know. Now, a few people in this case we're about to talk about get waterboarded, so that's a whole thing. But back to the gun casing that had microscopic scratches. Major Canyo, he personally investigated the bullet casing and he ran the scratch patterns through the system of registered guns in the country, and they got a hit. They got a match. The bullet casing found near Alan's body belonged to M16 rifle with the serial number 773159. The M16 is a standard issue police rifle in the Philippines. Serial number 773159 belonged to Mr. Louis Corcoran. Deputy Chief George went out the first day with his partner Aurelio and 3 other low-ranked officers. Do you remember their names? Zoilo, Vicenzo, Luis. Strange, but another but. Luis had handed in his gun. It was registered under his name, but he actually wasn't carrying it, and he hadn't been carrying it for most of the month. When the officers scanned the analysis paper, they saw that he handed in his gun the day the bodies were discovered.
So after.
Yeah. So things are getting kind of shady. Before the officers could even contact him for an interrogation, on July 12th, Luis turns himself in. He walks into the police station along with his brother, Boy, who is also a police officer, and they said that they were both involved in the and murder of Eileen and Alan. They said, yes, we were involved, but we didn't do it alone, and we were under orders to do it. They told the police that the guilt from what they had done was weighing down on them, and they were ready to tell the whole story. Luis and his brother, the 2 police officers, they start talking about how a week before the murders, they had been approached by a man named Lavadia. Apparently, he worked for a very powerful man, the notorious general of the Filipino army, General Barraco, interesting man, if you can call him that. He ran for office a few times, but he got a lot of shit on because he threatened his opponent and said that he was going to chop him up to pieces, add salt, and feed him to his dog. Verbatim. It wasn't even like a literally verbatim, an active threat.
He lost.
He lost, and then he decided, you know what? I think I'm okay with my mountain of power.
Still a general.
Still a general. And his family is even more interesting. And maybe interesting is not the right word. Just evil. His father was obsessed with Hitler. His father named his 3 sons Dictator, Blitz, and Krieg. Krieg is German for war. So
Jeez.
Baracco's first name is Dictator, which gets confusing when you're like General Dictator Baracco. It's not a rank in the military.
Yeah.
That's his first name.
Wow.
Yeah. So Lavadia told Lewis that right now Baracco is not a happy man. Someone had messed with his son, and he did not take that lightly. Now, just remember, this guy has been linked with multiple human rights violations, crime syndicates, drug traffickers, and a coup attempt back in the 80s. So when he hears that his son is in a fight, you think that this guy is like, oh no, my son was in a fight. Did I raise him wrong? Do I need to have a conversation with him? No, his train of thought is more, who is my son fighting, and why didn't my son take care of him?
No, you're telling me the son is the wall punching dude?
Wall punching dude, Kit.
Wow.
Yeah, Kit. The guy that got into a fight with Alan, a fellow college student. Apparently.
So that makes sense, though. Like, now you see why someone will punch a wall.
So, yeah, Lavadia goes to Lewis and is like, you're going to do this for the general. And he's like, well, I can't do it alone, so I got to get my brother involved. And they commit this crime with a few other people. Now, the police, the good police, they sit on the other end of this interrogation table looking at Lewis like he's lost his mind. They honestly don't even believe a single word that he said. They don't tell him that, though. They say, okay. And they ship him off to another police station to be interrogated. And it sounds like they're shipping him off to a new police station because, you know, there's a lot of personal ties at this police station, right? Wrong. Not entirely. This specific police station has a specialty. They 100% like to cross the ethical line with their interrogation tactics, and to put it as simply as possible, they are big stands of waterboarding, starvation, violent interrogations, and they happen to be fond fans of electrocution during interrogations. They tortured Lewis and his brother boy. They just don't believe it. You know, you're going to kill your son's university student friends because of a love triangle? Like, even for a general that is as bad as General Dictator, it's just kind of crazy. It's very unhinged. Not to say that he's not unhinged, but it's just weird. So through the police, through their not so legal techniques, they're able to find out that the 2 brothers were working for someone, a very high up official, but it wasn't the general. It was someone else. They knew who it was now. So they marched straight up to the killer's home, knock on the door, and there he was, standing there in his signature pristinely ironed white polo shirt. Mayor Sanchez, can we ask you a few questions, please? They're invited in, and they start grilling him. Mr. Mayor, what were you doing the night of June 28th, 1993? The 28th? Oh, that's been so long. I don't know if I remember. Well, actually, yes, I do. Go on. Yeah, well, I'll tell you, but don't go spreading it around. I was with Elvira. Elvira, my mistress. I was there in the morning over in the Bay. So Bay is about 4 miles away from the university. I stayed the morning. I said bye to the kids on their way to school, and I ate breakfast with Elvira. Then I left in the afternoon to go back to Manila, and I wasn't back home until about 10 p.m. Okay, thank you. And Mr. Mayor, now can you tell me what you know about the Eileen case? Oh, a lot. I was told the very same day that 2 people had been found murdered near my house. I was enraged. I ordered a prompt and thorough investigation to prevent any sort of cover-up. The truth is the most important thing, remember? I will not hesitate to have the perpetrators of this crime killed, whether a general's son is involved or not. Son of a bitch.
No freaking way.
Yeah. Do you think... Who do you think might have committed that crime? So, side note for my viewers, if the police ever ask you, if you have any guesses off the top of your head who you think did it, do not answer, do not take a guess, ask for a lawyer, because guess what? They think you did it. They will never ask you that unless they think you're the one.
So what happens if I say a name? Like, does that
they
Put me in
want to,
trouble.
it's not the name that gets you in trouble, but it's the way that you start rambling because you can't just say a name without explanation. So you're like, oh, I
Oh,
think,
so it's like you look kind of guilty by like pointing finger at so and so.
and then you could accidentally lie, trying to make that person look even more guilty.
Got it.
And when you get caught in one lie, they're going to try to catch you in another and another. And then all these lies are going to create a mountain of evidence that's going to be thrown at you during the trial. Well, speaking of the general's son, I did hear that the victim and Kit, the general's son, got into a vicious fight months before the victim turned up dead on the side of the road. Unfortunately, our country has a problem with high status people getting drunk on power. And if the general saw Alan as a threat to his family, it might be worth checking out. It's very interesting that the mayor brings up Kit, just like how Lewis and Boy originally brought up Kit because before they were waterboarded, of course. So were they on the same page? How does the mayor know about Kit? It's weird. Officer Aurelio hadn't been seen since June 30th. He had disappeared, remember? His coworkers were concerned, but they didn't have time to look for him. On August 10th, a little over a month after Eileen and Alan's bodies were found, federal agents arrested him at a huge flea market in Manila because he was the one driving that police van, and he was very, very close with the mayor. The day Aurelio disappeared, guess where was the last place he was spotted? He was seen walking into the mayor's house. He walked in, stayed for a while, then walked out, and that was the last anyone saw of him until he was arrested. So while you can't book anyone because they look like a drawing, you can bring them in for an interrogation. The police found him at the flea market, brought him in for questioning, along with Officers Zoilo, Vicenzo, and Chief Deputy George. All of the ones that were working on the drug run operation with Officer Lewis, they were all now being questioned.
So this whole drug operation, it's not really about drugs.
Yeah, it was not about drugs. Every single one of them was in on it. These are the killers. The officers
That's freaking crazy.
are the killers, and the mayor is the one that ordered it.
That is so
Blatant.
wow.
Which explains the very theory that Alan was the one who did it, because to them, they want to clean it up as neatly as possible. They can't catch another killer because they're going to be like, I'm innocent. What are you talking about? There's no evidence that ties anybody else to it. It's the cleanest if Alan had done it. They can wrap up the case, tie a little ribbon on it, and move about their days.
But that also, like, there's no way this is all of their first crime.
No way.
You don't do something this
Disgusting and gross.
blatant
Yeah.
in front of people. So, like, imagine how much they are covering.
Yeah. So at first, these 5 men were not cooperating. They were not giving any answers to the police. So they were sent to be waterboarded. One by one, the answers started spilling out like a glass of water that was knocked over. Aurelio was first. He's like, okay, I'll tell you what happened, right? And Vicenzo followed suit. And together, these 2 men would become the prosecutor's star witnesses.
I thought you said there's 7 people. Right now, there's 5, right? And then plus so there's one more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, the brother.
The brother was involved, but there's actually another person that's involved. It gets really weird because one of these people doesn't actually get charged with a crime. So what happened that day? So remember the drug runs where they were driving around? They were not looking for the drug runner. They were looking for Eileen. Now, there are different stories on how the mayor even ran into Eileen, but some people say she interviewed him for the school's newspaper. Another version says that Eileen was the neighbor of his mistress, and he had seen her outside. Or he had gone to the university campus because he frequents there a lot and had seen her. And Eileen was beautiful. She had dark hair, fair skin. She had a distinct beauty mark on her left cheek. When she smiled, it was known to be kind of like a very charismatic trait of hers. Regardless, whenever the mayor found out about Eileen, he decided he wanted her. He didn't care that she could have been young enough to be his daughter, or that she was a resident of a town full of people he was supposed to protect, or a university student, or just a general human being. He did not care. To him, she was just a thing that he wanted. And with someone with that much power, when they want something, they get it. So these cops, they drove around until they found Eileen. They did not expect Eileen to be with Alan at that time, but it was either disappoint the mayor or kill another university student. And they thought, well, if we're already killing one, what's 2? So in less than 5 seconds, they were dragged into the back of the van, brought to the mayor's house, where the mayor had his way with Eileen and then disposed of her. Like, Her life ended because what? Literally, I can't even go there. The 2 university students were ordered to be killed. Now, the people involved were the 5 officers that we talked about. The mayor was clearly involved, but also Lewis's brother, so another police officer, and the mayor's gardener, Pepito. He was involved. He was at the house watching TV in the back guest house, remember? So then he just like randomly got involved. And then he was like, you know what? I want to kill Alan and I want to go R-word a university student. So let me get in the van with you. He left the house to go do that. So they take the 2 university students, they drive them out to a remote area about 20 minutes away, and they kill them. And the next day, they all play good cop. They come across the bodies. They find the bodies. Lewis turns in his rifle without an explanation. He just checks it back into the armory at the station. He said he didn't want to lug it around anymore. He wanted to take his name off the registration for the gun. We now know that he was trying to separate the gun's serial number from his name just in case, but that's not how it works. The police records just don't disappear because you turn in the gun. They go through all possible leads, and the only reason that they even found that bullet casing is because remember they were going door to door and one of the civilians turned it in? Well, Vicencio was doing rounds with an unaffiliated officer when the resident showed them the casing, and his partner was actually a good ethical person, and now Vicencio had to take the shell into evidence and hand it over to Major Canio because if he doesn't, you know, everyone's going to suspect him, and it wasn't even his gun that it was attached to. Meanwhile, Officer Aurelio, even though he saw the van being washed, he was starting to get very angsty. He had heard that civilians saw the driver of the police van and were ready to do a composite sketch. He knew that that would be him. He was the driver. So he skipped town. He demanded to get some money out of the mayor, and he skipped town. That's why he vanished. So this is the version that they were told and people generally accept as the truth. There are a couple of things to note though. It could mostly be the truth, but I feel like we're not getting the whole story. For one, police officers had to torture the men to get this story out of them. Aurelio and Vicencio got tortured less, and since they agreed to talk, they I would just say that they probably downplayed their personal involvement. Like Aurelio was like, I didn't even R-word her because I felt compassion. And he's trying to, it's very convenient, right? But you never felt compassion. Like you felt fine about kidnapping her, delivering her to an R-worder, and then watching her get R-worded by all your coworkers afterward. But you felt too bad to R-word her, but you're okay with everything else. You felt compassion, but then you didn't even protest when she was murdered and left for dead in the sugarcane field. I don't believe that. Also, Aurelio and Vicencio said that on their way back home, all the other officers were bragging about what they did, but they did not participate in that. They felt sick to their stomach. Also very convenient. But I do believe the gist of this story. I do think that their roles in this version of events is heavily minimized, but overall the story clears. That's the one that the police cleared as well. It explained why Eileen and Alan were murdered and left on the side of the road. It explained who they were working for. It even explained why Aurelio saw a prisoner cleaning the van because the mayor ordered it.
See, that also confusing because like these 5 people was handpicked by mayor. Why these 5?
So he believed these are the ones that would be the most corrupt. So a few of them already worked with the mayor and probably committed crimes for the mayor. But I think maybe the mayor had word. I'm assuming the mayor had his fingers all dipped in all sorts of dirty activities. So maybe these cops were already corrupt.
Yeah, it's just it just leaves a feeling like, who do I trust in this police station? If you're saying these 5, I picked these 5, and these 5 is willing to rape, kill, and do all of this, I'm like, okay, what does that say about everyone else and what they've done before?
Like what have they already gotten away
sense.
with?
Yeah.
And the mayor was the one that told all these officers to blame Kit and maybe even Kit's father. Now, the police arrested the mayor at his residence, and the media was ready for him. He was arrested in his crisp white polo shirt, thrown in handcuffs, and he said that he was being framed. The whole trial, he denied everything. He said Aurelio and Vicencio had made up the story under pressure from the waterboarding and that he had nothing to do with the crime. He was really dramatic about it, too. He was like, I have no involvement in the crime. It was a love triangle that was pinned on me. Truly, I am innocent. Even if the world sinks, let the guilty ones die if I am to blame. I don't know what that makes sense. In the end, DNA analysis matched Aurelio and Vicencio's testimonies. The mastermind was Mayor Sanchez. 4 of the original 5, Deputy Chief George, Luis, Zoilo, and Vicencio, they were arrested. and charged. The two men they picked up before the crime, Pepito, the gardener, and Boy Lewis's brother, they were also charged. All 7 men were found guilty. So out of everyone, Aurelio was the only one that wasn't arrested, which is crazy. But maybe they really needed his testimony. The court gave them each 1 life sentence for every instance of that Aileen had to suffer, so 7 each. In the Philippines, a life sentence is called reclusion perpetua, which is 40 years. So each man was sentenced to a total of 280 years in prison. So it's basically life, but each person got 280 years in prison. 40 for each instance of R-word, even if you only R-worded her once. Now, the judge presiding over the case released a statement, and he said that this was a crime that was hatched in hell. He said that each one of these men were complicit and participated in watching a university student get assaulted 7 times. They let her watch as her friend Alan died, and then they took her life. And all of that is just so cruel. To submit her, this young woman, to see her friend die and then to know that she was next, like the amount of fear and trauma in those very last moments while they tortured her, they should all rot and die in prison. And everyone thought case closed. Till 24 years later. Barely halfway through just one of the life sentences that each man got, the Bureau of Corrections director signed a piece of paper that would set the mayor free. Basically on good behavior, they said. The public was disgusted. They were not happy with this situation. They did not want the mayor released. He had been convicted of masterminding the R-word and murder of 2 innocent college students. How does a prison system let a monster like this go? I mean, people were wondering.
What year was that? You said 24 years later?
So recently. Aileen and Alan's mothers held media interviews, organized protests, filed appeals to prevent the mayor from getting released. The public's main question that they had was, so money still talks, huh? Like, this is what happens. It just didn't make sense. Filipinos came by the hundreds to protest in front of the Department of Justice in Manila. They held signs that said, "Go turbo on Sanchez. Don't let him go." It was a reference to how one of the offenders said that they would go turbo on Aileen after the mayor R-worded her. The president at the time thankfully listened to the public rage. He fired the Bureau of Corrections director for encouraging the mayor's release and guaranteed the public that the mayor would die in prison. And he did. March of 2021, he had a chronic kidney disease. He was found unconscious and unresponsive in his cell at 7 a.m. They took him to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. As far as we know, the other 6 men are still alive, and they are going to live the rest of their lives in prison. And I just want to say, this is not a Philippines issue. I think in every single country, the police departments have issues. There are always going to be evil people that use influence and power to do the most unthinkable, despicable things to the very people that they're promised to protect. We've got disgusting religious leaders, we've got disgusting police officers, politicians, government officials, even professors, people that are doctors, people that are literally sworn in to protect people that are doing unthinkable things. But there are some good ones in this story. Major Canyo, the head of the police department, did not let his subordinates get away with this, even though it made his whole department look so horrible. The major was not scared to go up against the general, the mayor, anybody. He was willing to take down any official. There were countless other colleagues who helped him investigate their own colleagues and take them down. They were the ones that stood by their oaths, even when it got hard. So there are good, diligent people out there that are still doing everything in their power to do the right thing. They help bring justice to Aileen and Alan's family, and I just hope that Aileen and Alan's family can at least sleep at night knowing that the people who did this to their children will never, ever have the opportunity to do this to anybody else. And I think that maybe they can harness the power of the country coming together. The public really showed up for this case. They fought for justice for Aileen and Alan, and it's not going to make up for their absence or what happened to them, but I just hope it's the first step to healing. And that is the story of what happened to 2 very beloved university students in the Philippines. What are your thoughts? Please stay safe out there, and I will see you guys on Sunday for the minisode.